Hey everyone, welcome to the Sales Successful Savvy Sales. I don't even know where I am anymore. What day is it? I wanted to come to you today, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about the intersection of emotion and logic. So I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into this here. Most of the times, you've probably heard this a lot actually, that people buy an emotion and they justify with logic. Buy an emotion, justify with logic. You've probably heard that a million times. And it's kind of true, or it is true. And I think there's something that's a little bit more going on there. To me, the statement people buy an emotion and justify with logic has always felt a little too finite, because to me it kind of represented that there's this logic part that happens and then there's this emotional part that happens, or the reverse, there's this emotional part that happens and then you step in and you get all logical about your decision. And I always think actually that the emotion and logic and a great sales conversation is where, when you are in the seat of the salesperson, you actually get the other person to realize that there's an intersection of what's emotional for them and what's logical for them. I think it's kind of on this continuum with this circle kind of going around. You're emotional and then you're logical about it, and then you're emotional and then you're logical about it, rather than you're finite emotional and then you're going to finitely justify it with logic. So let me give you an example. Say you're in the market for a new car and you've got your heart set on the zippy little red convertible. It looks great, makes you feel good when you're in it. You feel just like super successful. You live in someplace tropical. It gives you great pleasure to drive that thing around in the warm, balmy weather with the sun beating down on your head. I happen to love convertibles, so it sounds like that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. So you want to buy this. And you also need to feel that it's logically a good decision to purchase it. So what happens is you might say to yourself, logically, well, I need a new car. Your emotions around it is, and I'm going to get the zippy little red convertible, but I need a new car, so it's okay. So right there, you're already getting an intersection of what's emotional for you and what is logical for you. Same thing, you're zipping down the street, you're looking good, you're feeling good, you just feel like, oh, this is awesome, I've got the world on a string. That's the emotional part of you. The logical part of you is probably saying something like, unfortunately for me, this car is well known to be safe and secure, and it's a well-oiled machine. It's got this amazing engine. So anytime any of us make a decision, we are buying on emotion, we are justifying in logic, but I think that they actually really intersect and overlap. This is important, particularly in the self-development industry. Here's why. When you are the service deliverer of the thing or the service that people are buying, you need to be extremely certain that the person who has just become your client feels very excited about working with you, and also believes that it is the smart thing to do. It is logical. And that's why I think these are, rather than on kind of a bouncing ball continuum, it's a circle. It just keeps going. The reason why this is so incredibly important in our industry is you are going to get into relationship with this person. This is not a sell it once and out the door they go and you will never see them again. Not that you want to sell like that anyway. You should always be relationship minded. But in this particular industry, it's really important that you make that connection. If you don't, you're going to run the risk of one of two things happening. Number one, this person may buy based on emotion. The emotion's really high, the logic is a little low. So they've logically justified investing in this just enough to where they feel okay about it. So high on emotion, low on logic. They're really excited and are justifying enough to say yes in the moment. Potentially, if the logic and the emotion are completely intertwined, this person will step away. And the next thing you know, you're going to get an email or a phone call, and they say something like, I don't know what I was thinking. I really can't afford it. Now isn't a good time. So they made a decision in the moment based on emotion, and their logic, or how they felt about the logic, was just a little weak. And now they've changed their mind. On the flip side, the opposite can happen. You can have somebody who very logically makes a decision and then realizes they don't feel good about it, or it's not inspirational. So high on logic, low on emotion. So these are practical decisions, right? This is the right thing for me to do. This is what I should do. But this is what I want to do isn't so much there. So in the self-development industry, that person potentially now is going to call you or send you an email, and they're going to say, I don't think I want to do this anymore. It just doesn't feel right. And what feel right in that moment actually means I'm not inspired to do this. It doesn't sound exciting to me. It doesn't feel very valuable to me compared to these other things that I could be doing. So the logic and emotion, they're sisters because there's some similarity there, and they're also two completely separate things. So rather than making a statement that people buy an emotion and then justify with logic, I would rather you kind of reframe that and say people tend to make purchasing decisions and feel good about them when there is an intersection of the emotion and the logic. That's a happy decision. So let me give you a personal example. Several years ago, I was really interested in this whole tiny house movement that was going on. I love to travel. I'm single, kind of footloose and fancy free. I can do whatever I want whenever I want. And this concept of the tiny house was very appealing to me. In my mind, I saw myself zipping around the continental US, doing whatever I wanted, going to all of these different places, living in different places, and for whatever time that I wanted to, meeting new people, having new experiences. Emotionally, that felt very, very exciting to me. Tiny house, perfect fit. Emotionally, very high on it, right? And then common sense started to set in, otherwise known as logic, the logical part of my brain. I started to think about it, and I thought, I'm really not good at manual labor. I never have been. I've never enjoyed it. Tiny house is a lot of work. And I just said I was single, so I'm going to be doing all of this on my own. That didn't sound so great to me. The other thing that I really started to think about too, and I started to think about it logically, was the whole concept of what are you going to do for sewage and very practical things like emptying out your toilet. That's as far as I can go because it's just a nasty thought to me. So the emotional part of me thought it sounded really super cool, glamorous, exciting. I could be going all these places, doing all these different things, meeting all these really amazing people. And then the logical side kicked in, and I thought that this is never going to work. So that is an example of a clear delineation between emotion and logic. Too much of a separation. Did not go in for the tiny house. So glad I didn't. I don't even know what in the world I was thinking, except that it kind of sounded good in the moment. So had I been talking to somebody who was selling tiny houses, they may have been able to whip me into this frenzy of where emotionally it just seemed like the greatest thing ever. And I can assure you, in probably less than a week, I would have said, take this back. I don't want it. I don't know what in the world I was thinking. Separate example where I'm going to talk about being high on logic and the emotion, not so much. Again, I love to travel. And I kind of like to do everything I like to kind of be princessy about stuff, like I like a very she sort of experience, not something that's bare bones stripped down. So a logical decision when I am traveling, especially if I just need a hotel for one night, would be to pick a hotel room or a chain that was kind of on the budget end of things. $79 a night, right? Whatever it is. How much glamour and glitz do you really need from the hours of midnight to 7, especially when pretty much all of that is going to be spent sleeping? So a very logical, practical decision would be to say, you know what? I don't think I need to spend a ton of money on this because I'm just going to be there for X amount of time. Logical decision makes total sense. Probably my accountant would stamp of approval. Except for that doesn't sound good to me at all. Emotionally, there's a huge disconnect because I've been in those kind of places and I have always regretted not spending more money so that I could go stay in my shishi place that I wanted to. So emotionally, that never feels good to me. And I actually regret that I didn't spend the extra X amount of dollars so that I could stay in a place that had more welcome home, Princess Jane. Don't judge me, or you can. So logically, good decision on paper. Emotionally, really nothing in it for me. So if you're the hotel owner, let's say, you could get me to justify with logic, but the emotion around that, it's practically non-existent or it's very low. You really want to pay very close attention to this when you are having a conversation, and don't buy into people make purchasing decisions on emotion and then justify with logic, as in that's the end of that sentence. It's a little more entwined than that. They will buy on emotion and justify it with logic, but then the logic actually feels really good. So they're emotional about the logic and then they're logical about the emotion. And it's just kind of this constant spin whirlwind that they're on, that you're on, that any of us are on when we're actually making a buying decision. So you want to be really certain to uncover what is important to this person when you are having this conversation with them. What do they most want? And logically, why would it make sense to them? Remember, it's never about why it would make sense to you or how it would feel to you, but why would it make sense to them? What powers of justification are legitimate for them? Why is this a good decision on paper? How are they going to sleep at night knowing I made this decision? It's logical. I think I made a smart decision. I think I made a wise decision. It's what I needed to do. What's their logical reason for potentially wanting to invest in themselves through you? Also, you need to be really certain that they are having an emotion, or in other words, being inspired by the thing that they would actually invest in. Can they go to bed at night saying, I am so excited that I signed up to do this thing. I am inspired because I'm going to be able to do this, this, and this. I cannot wait to get started. That's the emotional part of it. So when your emotions intersect with the logic, that's where the magic is. That's where people not only want to willingly say yes, they're not going to be a fall off 2 or 3 days later or whatever time later. They're committed to the yes. They're excited and inspired by their yes. And their logical mind says, good job, you make sound decisions. This makes perfect sense. It's the right thing to do. So the next time you go into a sales conversation, I want you to look at what will inspire them? Where are they drawing their inspiration from? What is encouraging or exciting to them about this? Meaning your offer, the thing that you do. And listen for how they're actually describing to you why it makes the most sense to them. Any of us, you should, I should, we should feel really good and confident about any purchasing decision we make, any investment dollars. And let's face it, right now is a great time to look at investment dollars, and are we actually using them the way that we want to? And I really want to encourage you to be as protective over your potential clients' investment money as you would be with yours. They should be fully bought in, fully inspired, fully encouraged to invest with you. They should think it makes sense. They should be able to see the logic in it. They should easily be able to justify it, and justify it in a pure way, not in a let me justify this so I can feel good about it kind of way. Truly, purely, does it feel good? Does it make sense? That's what you want to help them uncover. That's the truth that you want to get them to be able to speak into. And here's the thing, if it's not, then they're not an ideal client. And if they're not an ideal client, never be afraid to turn away business. There are plenty of people out there who want to work with you. So don't treat people like paychecks, because they are not. So help them uncover how they're emotionally feeling about the decision to work with you or buy your goods. Help them uncover why it makes sense to them, why it's logical, and why there is a very good natural feeling of logic behind it. That's your intersection of emotional and logic. That's where happy decisions are made. And that is where you, in the role of the salesperson, which is synonymous with business owner, are going to help the most people. You're going to be able to serve the most people. You are going to be able to make the money that you want, and you're going to have a lot more fun doing it. That's all I've got for you today. I'm trying to keep everything in super bite-sized amounts, microburst of learning here. It's usually probably kind of best, but I think our bandwidths are pretty full right now. So getting content on top of content on top of content, we don't really need to do that right now. So here's what I want you to do for your home fun. Number one, I want you to write down all of the emotions that can happen for your prospective clients when they get the results that you can help them get. And this could be for your goods if you're selling a tangible thing, or through the services that you're selling. what will happen for them as a result, the feeling they will have around the result. So for example, they will have more confidence about having sales conversations because they're going to know how to actually structure and have a sales conversation. They will feel delighted about walking into any room because they know they're going to look fabulous. That would be, say, if you're an image consultant. So what will happen for your people and how emotionally is that going to affect them? So I want you to write all of that down. And then the other thing I want you to do is the logical part of it. Why does this actually make sense? Why would this be a sound decision? So going using those two examples, for the first one, it would be an absolutely sound decision that makes sense to generate revenue if you have a business. If you're not generating revenue, then you don't really have a business, you have an outreach. Nothing wrong with that. I happen to love those. And that's not a business. A business is in business to make money and make a profit. So that is a very sound decision. It makes complete logical sense that you would want to know how to have effective sales conversations and get clients because you need that to have a business. The second example, using the image consultant, it makes 100% complete sense if your client is somebody who is frequently in the public eye and is constantly seen. That's kind of a necessity to feel good about the way that you look. It makes logical sense to work with an image consultant so that you're putting your best foot forward and you're a full representation in a way that you feel good about when you are out and about being seen by people. So I want you to write down both of those. So first, what are the results, the feeling that people are going to have as a result of working with you? And why is it 100% just good common sense? Why is it a good decision? Emotion, logic. So let's reframe this going forward. It's not that people buy an emotion and justify with logic. It's more the intersection of the emotion and the logic. That's where happy decisions happen. That's what gives you referrals. That's what gets you good press. That's what gets people coming and wanting to work with you. And for you as the business owner, it's also what prevents fall off, people wanting refunds, just kind of being problematic in general. All right. Jane, Show Stopping Sales, that is me. If you have any questions, I would love for you to post them. If you kind of got a light bulb moment, I would love for you to post them. If you would like to explore further where you and how you are showing up in your sales conversations and what you can do to make them more fun, make them more lucrative, and actually just enjoy the entire process and feel really confident about having those sales conversations, then I would love for you to send me an email. You can do that to jane@showstoppingsales.com. Again, that's jane@showstoppingsales.com. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you continue to stay safe and healthy, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.